Thanks, nice to see you guys. My name is Ben Jones. I'm a creative director at Google. And when I joined Google from Hill Holliday, and before that Digitas here in town, I thought, oh my God, it's going to be great, right? They've got Google Glass, they're doing high-altitude balloons, and now I'm going to get to go inside the secret volcanic lair. And I'm going to see the space elevators and the telepathy helmets and the jetpacks and the time machine. I thought, boy, the creative stuff, the creative potential of that technology must be absolutely astonishing. And the most amazing thing that I discovered when I got inside of Google is that Google isn't really about technology. Yes, there's amazing technology. But the focus of Google at its core, as a company, as a product company, as a media company, is about people. It's about people first. It's about what people need. It's about what people are doing. And I discovered that the way that Google works is we put technologies out there and see what people do. We don't understand. We don't imagine that we know in advance. But we put technology in the hands of people, and we see where they go. We see what they do. We see how they're going to change and behave. And for a long time, this was focused on utility. Right? Search is about utility. I'll get you the thing that you want. You have a specific need. I'm going to fulfill it. But what's becoming much more interesting is all of our behaviors are changing, and they're not based on utility. It's not about doing a thing that I knew how to do before. I just want to do it faster. It's not about efficiency. It's about a transformation of culture. And understanding that and being a part of that is not the job of big businesses. It's the job of people. So the most challenging part of the work is understanding how you always put people at the center, how you always understand that you need to watch them, observe where they're going, watch changes in their behavior, anticipate, and hope that you understand where they're headed. Now, having come out of the agency world and worked with a lot of brands, I understand that this is a super hard job because here are the people, and there are the agencies, and there are the brands, and offstage somewhere are the lawyers trying to figure out how they're going to protect themselves. So we're chasing the behaviors of people constantly. I'll give you an easy example. We're in the process of a massive redesign of YouTube, right? A multi-billion-dollar business reaches every corner of the globe. When we started, one of the prompts for our change was that 25% of our views were coming on mobile. Less than a year later, in the midst of this transformation, north of 40% are on mobile and rising more rapidly. Even as we change, even as we throw engineers at it, people's behavior is changing more rapidly than we can anticipate, and so you need to design to be flexible. That's the creative revolution that we're all in the midst of right now, is chasing what people are doing. It's jumping off the bridge. We don't know what's going to happen when we hit and where we're going to land, but following people to get there. It's not a revolution of big data. It's not a revolution of big machines. It's not a revolution of big companies. It's a revolution of the small and the personal. The technologies are available to all of us. If you think back about the way IT was run 5, 10 years ago, right? IT was big machines, it was big iron, it was security. If you wanted a fast machine, you had to work at a place that would give you one. Now all of our machines are faster than our work machines. All of our phones are better than our phones at work. Our IT departments have stopped replacing them and started figuring out how to work with us. This is the small and the personal. This is where behavior is changing now. This is what we're paying attention to now. It may sound weird to be Google and be saying, we don't know what's coming next. We're following people. We're watching people. But all of us have the same access to the technologies that are transforming our culture and our society. I'm going to give you an example of that. So one of the true legends about Google is that there's 20% time. All of the engineers, not all of the folks like me, all of the engineers are given 20% of their time to innovate, to propose new projects and pursue them. And as we were building Google+, one of the engineers on that project, for his 20% project, said, oh, it would be neat if there was a group video chat. Nobody really knew, is this a thing? Will it be a thing? I think it's become the most interesting innovation in the entire suite of tools. That is Google+. And part of that is we don't know what people are going to do with it. We put it out there, and things like this happen.
Freedom for me has always just been going for a walk in the woods, finding the perfect light, and getting the shot. I think I started when I was 12 years old, putting that canoe on my shoulders, carrying it down to the lake, and going for paddle. John Butterell, as a young photographer, his epic canoe trip, 1969. That was a long time ago. One day, I was out taking pictures, and I thought, how cool would it be to attach a phone to your camera and hang out with 5, 10 people, and they would see exactly what I was seeing through the viewfinder of my camera.
It was gorgeous.
It was pretty amazing. And the next day, Corey Fisk came into the hangout.
I love photography, and I have been living with MS 10 years, and this is my world. There's nothing more to my world than that.
I just said, tomorrow I'll take you for a walk. I'm going to walk closer to that old tree over there.
Down a little.
Okay.
A little more. Right there. Lovely.
Look up. Look way up.
Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah, macro that one.
Got it. For a few brief minutes, she wasn't going to be in that bed. She was going to experience her own momentary escape. She was on a virtual photo walk, and we didn't even know what one was then, but we were sure doing it. The next day, we posted the video. People saw it and started sharing it, and photographers all over the world jumped on board.
So we're bringing lots of people around and giving them Hawaii view here.
Oh, yes, we have a sea turtle.
Look at this.
Oh my goodness.
We're in beautiful Cape Town, a couple of buffalo.
This is Utah Lake.
I'll be emailing you photos soon.
I never anticipated that so many photographers would give their time and feel so committed. As a photographer, you're in a special place taking pictures, and now people are with you, and for that brief time, you're giving them a little bit of freedom.
I'm just gonna sneak around here.
It's a very rewarding thing.
Can you guys see what I'm seeing at the moment?
That is something.
Look.
This is what creative revolution looks like. It doesn't look like a new kind of hardware or software. The technology can already do so many things we can't imagine. Right now, we are at a point where we need imagination much more than we need technology. John Butterill, he was not a technophilic guy. He was not tweeting. He was not posting. He was not a blogger. He was a nature photographer, a Canadian nature photographer. Is there any more unlikely source of inspiration than that? And yet he's done more with our platform than I would argue 99.9% of the ad agencies who are spending all of their time thinking about how they're going to make creative revolution happen. Some other areas that I want to point to where we see the sort of front edge of consumer experience evolving, and then I'll talk a little bit about where Google is investing and how we're thinking about them. So first, digital is real. Digital is real. This is a personal crusade of mine, even within Google. I think digital is an old word. Nobody cares about digital. We care about digital because that's how we make things. But from a consumer perspective, no one cares. Is it digital? Is it not digital? It mattered when I was a pimply-faced teenager in my mom's basement on the Commodore PET hammering away. Then I was going to go and do a digital thing because that was an important and different and unique thing. But now digital is everywhere. We're on all the time. We're connected all the time. We don't notice anymore. We don't care anymore. Is it digital? Is it not digital? The only people who care are the people who are making things, and they're thinking about what they're making. But if I experience something, if I experience an amazing story, if I experience an amazing site, if I take in some amazing piece of information, do I care whether it was digital or not? I don't care. I don't care. And so when we make things that are digital, or we think about things that are digital, or plan making things that are digital, they carry the stench of advertising on them. And they're that much harder to believe, and they're that much harder to take in and to absorb and to feel are human and real. The contrary of that is also true. There's this incredible hunger for experiences that join real and digital together, for that to be wiped out. This is the OK Go work for Chevy Sonic from a few years back. Absolutely amazing. They dropped a car out of a plane, Sonic's first parachute jump. Was it digital? Was it real? Did I see it as a Super Bowl ad, or did I watch it online? I don't care. I don't remember. It was awesome. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. So the brands who are doing the hard work of this are the brands that are succeeding because consumers have ceased to care about what is digital and what is not. This is one of my favorite memorials. This is an astonishing piece of work. We have people come to us all the time, and they say, oh, can you put our advertising icon or our campaign on the front page? Can you put it on maps? Can you stick it up on maps? Maps is a reflection of reality. It's there for consumers. It's not there for advertisers. If you want to change maps, change reality. This is a memorial to the victims of a crash that happened in the depths of the desert in Niger. And they built this astonishing memorial out of the plane wreckage, and rocks that they trucked in and mirrors. The only place that it shows up is Google Earth. and it's absolutely amazing. You click in, it's complete emptiness in the northwestern part of Niger, and in and in and in, and here is this memorial out there in the desert. It's the actual size of a DC-10, the plane that crashed. There's a memorial with the names of all the folks that are on it. Absolutely amazing. So when ad agencies come to me and they say, oh, can you put mayhem on maps? It'll be great. I say, here, change reality, right? That's what's important. That's what people are interested in, not digital. Change what's real, make it real, plug into a human emotion. That's what people care about. This takes a little explanation. So this is my day from left to right, and the pictures represent the things that I pay attention to, and they're roughly scaled to how much attention I pay. So, you know, commuting to work and a cup of coffee, and this is my dog. If you eat underwear in my house, you will wear the thong of shame. Forewarned is forearmed. What I want you to notice about this, true for me, true for all of you, is that there is no downtime, right? There's no white space. There's no moment when I'm not paying attention to a thing and half ignoring another thing, and I've got layers of things, and below that a layer of tools actively filtering out all of the barrage of media that's coming at me. The difference is that I don't experience that as clutter. I don't experience that as overwhelm. 3, 4, 5 years ago, if you looked at the cognitive psychology studies, people were incredibly anxious and they felt very overwhelmed. It was too much. The media was too much. And the dominant mental model we had was, oh, I'm going to break through the clutter, right? Our world is cluttered, and I'm going to write this great campaign. I stood in front of many, many clients and many pitches. I said, we're going to break through the clutter. The world is not experienced now as clutter. That is not how we take in the world. The world is experienced by what we allow into our attention. And if you are going to live there as a brand, you need to figure out what you're going to replace. So if you're content, you'd better be better content than Roadhouse, which, to my mind, is pretty good content. If you're a game, you better be a better game than Dance Central. They're a great game. This I call my slide of client delusion, right? The clients come, oh, it's going to be great. We'll have 2 razor blades, and they'll race each other. People will be engaged. They love games. No one cares. They can play amazing games. There are Xboxes, PlayStations, Vitas. On my phone, I can play a game that's 1,000 times better than that. Why am I ever spend time with your game? So what are you going to replace in my attention? Right? That's the limited commodity. It's not media. It's not advertising time. It's not storytelling opportunity. What will you replace in my attention? Now, there's a downside to this and an upside. The downside is that it's very easy to filter you out. The upside is I can filter you in just as easily. So you don't have to raise your hands. I know you all watch Gangnam Style. We looked at your search data before I came in. And I know that you all watched the version of it with the English subtitles because it didn't make any sense in Korean. And then I know that many of you read a blog post because the subtitles didn't make any more sense in English than they did in Korean. And so then you had a little education about the geopolitical history of modern Seoul and the symbolism of the nouveau riche in modern Korean society. This is not a thing any of us were ever, well, most of us were not interested in, and there was no question you could have asked me where I'd have said, I'm interested in that, and yet you tuned it in, right? You saw this crazy video, and you followed it down this content K-hole, and then you had spent all of this time with this story that mattered to you. When I was at Digitas, we used to do an entire segment on the bottom of the page, right? The content runs out, and you slap the template in, and it's sort of the leftover part of a page. But the person who has gotten to the bottom of your page, that is the person who loves you. That is the person who read all of your content. That is the person most ready to share, most ready to absorb, most ready to take action. And what do they get? They get the leftovers, right? The bottom of the template. So what happens when people filter you in? What happens when you have a magnificent spot? What happens when you have an incredible experience and somebody loves you and they're moved? Then what? Where are you taking them? What are you doing with them? You can't follow them down all these content K-holes, but the opportunity of this very liquid media environment is that when you have them, they will do amazing, amazing things for you. You've got to figure out what that is. All right. The last section of this I call Makers and the New Making. It's based off of 2 TED Talks, which I was very struck by. Amanda Palmer on the right. She's a musician. She lives very much out loud. She crowdsources her horn section in new towns. She couch surfs when she's on tour. She was signed to a major record label, and she released an album, and it sold 25,000 copies. And she thought, oh, amazing, 25,000 copies. And the record label thought, nah, 25,000 copies. And so she was very upset. She complained in social media. And a whole bunch of people started to come up to her at her shows, and they said, they handed her money. They handed her cash, $10 bills. They said, Amanda, I love your music, and I want to support your music, and I don't want the record companies to have this. And what she realized was that was not an economic transaction. That was not a rational transaction. That was about the desire to contribute to an artistic endeavor in a profound way, and their way of doing it was giving her money. And so what she said was, I believe that I am not going to sell another piece of music. I'm going to give all of my music away and ask people to support me. So she did this in the form of a Kickstarter campaign, $1.2 million in 3 days, absolutely record-breaking in that time. She said, I'm never going to sell another piece of music, and so she has made her career. And I urge you to watch her talk, entirely worth 20 minutes of your time. At the end of it, she says, people come to me all the time and they say, Amanda, how do you get people to pay for music? She said, that's entirely the wrong question. The right question is, how do you let people pay for music? How do you invite them into a space that feels meaningful for them, that they want to contribute to, that they will give their energy to, their time to, and yes, their money to? Now, what does that mean for brands? I don't know. How do you do it in your brand? I don't know. Brands are starting to do it, but there's this incredible cultural energy there, whether it's Kickstarter or Indiegogo, this desire to participate in something larger than ourselves. And if brands can figure out how to do that, it will be immensely, immensely powerful. On the left, the Hole in the Wall gang, this is Sugata Mitra. He won the TED Prize this year. He was a computer teacher in Delhi. And he walked out of his school. The students at his school were all the children of rich parents. And the parents would all come in and they would say, oh, my child is a genius. My child is a prodigy. And he would walk out the door of his school, and across the street was a massive wall, and on the far side was this huge slum. And so he thought to himself, what are the parents of the poor children doing wrong that they are not all prodigies and geniuses? Is it nutrition? Is it culture? He was honestly asking. And so what he did was he cut a hole in the wall, it's a little hard to see, and he put a computer through. And the children who live in the slum come running up. They said, what is it? And he said, I don't know. And they said, what does it do? And he said, I don't know. And they said, can we touch it? And he said, yes. And he left it there for them to play with for 3 months. And he came back, and at the end of 3 months, they had figured out how to use it. They were downloading content, they were playing games, they were watching movies, they were interacting with it. The older kids were teaching the younger kids. These are kids, no formal education, no English language training, very little experience of any kind of technology at all, right? Totally had taught themselves how to do. So they came back to the school, they said, oh, this is amazing. These kids have taught themselves an incredible thing. Teachers at the school said, well, probably a student walked by and showed them how to use it. And so he set up an experiment 300 miles outside of Delhi where there were no students who could wander by. And he set up the same setups, a computer set up, kids came rushing up. But he said, I wanted to set them a question, not just figure out how to play around with it. He said, I wanted them to figure out the biochemistry of recombinant DNA. He said, this was a question I didn't know the answer to myself. I'm not even sure what the question meant. So it's a group of 8 to 10-year-old kids, no formal education, out in the middle of essentially the jungle. He goes away for 3 months. He comes back at the end of 3 months. He said, well, did you figure it out? And the kid said, no, we couldn't figure it out. And he thought, oh, I must have been wrong. It was impossible, and they couldn't. And this little girl comes up, and she said, we figured out how the covalent bonds in the RNA divide, but we can't figure out how they recombine. From nothing, in 3 months, biochemistry, biology, chemistry, English, computers, technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so his thesis is, we have no idea how we learn now. Now that we walk around with supercomputers in our pocket that have access to all the world's knowledge, we have no idea what we're capable of. And so I think the question for brands is, what happens if, instead of asking an absolutely minor, essentially meaningless question, I hope you tweet this, post this, I hope you like this, what happens when you ask an incredibly challenging question, an impossible question? Yes, you won't get the same mass of people who respond. But I would contend that if it's essentially meaningless for people, it's essentially meaningless for your brand. And if you ask people to do something that is deeply meaningful and find ways of getting people to interact and scale, that will be profoundly more meaningful for your brand. And I look, for example, at Dove Real Beauty. How many people experienced that live? 15 people? 20 people, maybe, after they edited everybody out. But more than 50 million people worldwide have seen it. Why? Because it was incredibly intensely meaningful, and that's what draws us to it. And so I think, as we think about social media and the opportunity of social media, which is tremendous, don't get me wrong, I think it's much more about how do we generate meaningful experiences for people than it is how do we get a whisper, light, touch, a connection in a very minor way. This is one of my favorite projects. I steal from this all the time. It's called Learning to Love You More. It was put together by 2 artists, Miranda July and Harold Fletcher. And on the left are a series of assignments. They're very simple things. They cost nothing. You can do them. But they're little explorations of intimacy. Write down a recent argument take a picture of strangers holding hands, and all of them have a little deliverable that you then post, and the people who have reported are people who have posted. So here is the assignment, take a picture of strangers holding hands. I have done this one. Let me tell you, when you ask strangers to hold hands so you can take their picture, it is a very profound exploration of where your own boundaries are. Are you weird? Am I weird? This is weird. I feel weird. And so in this very, very minor way, that is significantly less than 140 characters, here I've had this experience. Well, how does a brand do that? I don't know. How does a brand set these kind of missions and allow for an exploration of an emotion that is germane to that brand? I'm not sure. But it's extraordinarily powerful, and it's clear that you can do it. And so we need to think harder about how we do that, not messaging, an experience. How do we generate a human experience? How do we create a space where people have a human experience that will be meaningful for our brands? We think about this in terms of story engines. So a big idea for me and a big idea for you and a big idea for the creative directors that you know is the same thing, but we would pick different ones. And it's not just a story that I tell to you, but at you, about you, through you, with you, via you, these stories that are generative in new kinds of ways that allow you to enter a story from many, many different angles and vessels and so on. That's what we think are exciting. These are the big ideas that are going to drive the media of tomorrow. This, by the way, is a mathematical model of the Tunguska explosion in Siberia in 1903. There was a massive explosion in the middle of nowhere. You could hear it 1,000 miles away. It flattened trees for hundreds of kilometers. They couldn't figure out if the Russians had the bomb or it was a UFO. And this was a mathematical model where they figured out it was a meteorite that exploded 10 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, which is essentially right down at the bottom. This is a column of superheated gas and a massive shock wave. And so when you woke up this morning, you didn't say to yourself, I'm interested in Siberian history, or I wonder what happened in the middle of Tunguska in 1903, and yet here you are because this crazy animation made you feel stoned, and we're in the middle of the afternoon waiting for a break, and you filtered it in. I want to talk a little bit about some places where Google is investing. One of the interesting pieces for me is that we're a product company as well as a media company, and so rather than saying, oh, you should buy this type of media, you should do this sort of thing, I can say, this is where we're putting our money. This is the human experiences that we're investing in, so we think that they're important. The first is the idea that context is magic. Context is magic. This is not technology about utility. This is about magical experiences that can be enabled through the use of technology in context. So this started for us. We figured out you liked search better if it was faster. Right? I got the results faster, 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 faster. This is where autocomplete came from. That was originally called Google Instant. We had teams of engineers optimizing the stack faster, faster, faster. And finally, Larry and Sergey went to the team that does search, and they said, we want you to make search better than instant. That was the brief. Make search better than instant. And that question has unleashed this massive wave of innovation. One of the most interesting is Google Now. If you guys haven't played with it, I encourage you to. It's built into the Android operating system, but it's also available on iOS. And it essentially takes your context and it delivers these little cards that are your data and your context in ways that are directly relevant to you. So it knows where home is, it knows where work is, it knows real-time traffic. So if I'm here and I'm trying to get to work, it'll show me from here how long it'll take to get there. It knows if I'm on a flight tonight because it can read it from my email. It knows that that flight's delayed because it's got real-time data from the airport. It knows what time I should leave for my flight because it's got real-time traffic data. It's not a huge, complicated interface. It's a little card like that. But it's these little bites of service that are about my context, the things that are important to me. It doesn't ask me where home is or where work is. It figured that out because I'm at work during the day and home at night. And I think that this kind of innovation is tremendously important for us as advertisers and marketers. Why? Because if this is what I'm expecting, information dynamically choreographed around my context based on all these sources of data, then what happens when I see your banner ad that was written by a copywriter 6 months ago? Not for me, but for a person kind of like me, who may or may not have a relationship with your company, who you don't know anything about, and you've paid no attention to the personal context of it. It sits there like a dead thing, like a dead thing. How do you get live data like this choreographed into a banner? I have no idea. But that's going to be the expectation of people, and advertising needs to find a way to get there. This, by the way, on the right, these are what we call the knowledge graph. So when you search on Frank Lloyd Wright, it's not a link that takes you to where the answer is. It's the answer to that question and the next question and 3 or 4 other questions that you haven't thought to ask yet. This is search better than instant. And it takes 800 billion connections between pieces of information in the background to serve up a very simple and very basic card like that. This is technology, but nobody cares about technology, just like they don't care about digital. They care about the answer, and the answer feels magical, right? I don't even need to think about it. Better Than Instant is not just about utility. So we've released 2 apps, Field Trip on the left and Ingress on the right. Field Trip is an ambient discovery engine. So you say, I'm interested in food, and I'm interested in architecture, I'm interested in history. And as you walk around, Field Trip buzzes you with little pieces of information about where you are. Your context serves up information that's going to be relevant to you. Ingress is a massively multiplayer game in real time, kind of a giant science fiction Risk happening on top of the world. And so it is, again, real time about where you are. You have to physically walk around. It was designed by people who love games and didn't like the idea that you sat on the couch and got fat to play them. This isn't just about Google. I think some of the most interesting marketing work that's out there is taking advantage of context. So I'll show you a couple of quick cases. I hate when people who do this come in to show, here's a great example, oh, it's going to be amazing, and they show Nike and they show Procter & Gamble. Of course, Nike, they've got $100 bazillion, they've got every single sports star in the history of the world. Of course, they have awesome advertising. This is Meatpack. They are a sneaker store in Guatemala.
Meatpack is the trendiest shoe store in Guatemala, a brand known for its edgy, cutting style and a store known for its unique discounts in limited edition kicks including brands like Adidas, Nike and Reebok. An icon for the sneakerhead subculture with over 60,000 fans on their fan page in less than a year. They needed to launch a new promotion that lived up to their hardcore fans, an innovative way to earn your discount. We created Hijack, an enhancement for the official Meatpack app used by our customers. Using GPS tracking technology that marks every competitor's store of the brand sold at Meatpack. So every time one of our sneakerheads enters one of the stores, it triggers a special notice with a promotion. Hijack sends an alert to the person's mobile with a discount that starts at 99% and decreases by 1% every second that goes by, making the countdown stop until you reach our store. More than 600 customers were hijacked from the competitors in a week. One customer, Pedro Rodriguez, got a record-breaking 89% discount. This is the first promo campaign that started the sale in the competitors' stores.
A mobile app, a couple of girls in hot shorts and a chicken, apparently, is all you need in this creative revolution. Another quick example I want to show you, this is from South America, Jeep down there. Built a campaign around GPS. GPS is a technology that makes it impossible for us to get lost, right? That's what GPS does, impossible to get lost. So they built into their GPS a button that says, get lost. And what it did was it mapped you from where you were to a destination that was nearby where you had to go off-road, you had to drive through mud, you had to leave, you had to take advantage of the capabilities of the Jeep, and it ended you up in this beautiful place, and the GPS read out, this is a view that your boss's office does not have. Absolutely amazing storytelling with context, completely incredible. This is, we think, is the future. It's not about a single object, glass. I have glass. You're welcome to try them afterwards. It's a fabric of objects connected by data, this data that knits it together into human experience in ways that are interesting and compelling. And we think, data is waiting for its Scorsese. We're waiting for the person who are going to make this into a meaningful, moving, powerful experience, the person with the imagination to knit the pieces together for us in a way that's not about utility, and it's not about narcissism, tell me something very specific about myself, but much bigger. We have one small initiative that's headed in this direction called Our Copy Code. Our Copy Code is about imagining the future of advertising, what it could be, what it will be. So we start with the question of what will advertising be in 5 years, and then what can we do in the next 3 to 6 months. And I'm going to play you a little trailer. This is from last year, introducing the program and talk a little bit about it.
Today. As in today. As in right now.
5:32 p.m.
It's a pretty exciting time to be doing what we're all doing. Because people like this, and people like that, are now sitting together with folks like this. And the work they're making isn't like the ads we're used to. It's stuff like this, these, and whatever this is. It's connecting the real world to the web, telling more personal stories with data, and using this stuff to make our lives easier and more fun. And wow, robots. Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time.
5:33 p.m.
And imagine what we could make next. Welcome to art, copy, and code.
So, the live demo, absolutely amazing. You can see transformative, the power of technology. This is a final thought that I'll leave you with as I think about creative revolution for us as advertisers, for us as marketers, for us as brands, for us as people. That the work that we're all excited to do, that we're interested in doing, we all have the same access to the tools. We have the same access to look at people, to look at the patterns of human behavior. And the thing that makes all of that happen is to get into the space of yes. When I was at Digitas, we were pitching Holiday Inn Express, and I had this idea that they should do a global program to send a man into space. And I knew it was a crazy idea. I knew all these reasons that it wouldn't work, and I had literally an elevator ride with my client. And I said, I know the legal reasons, I know why, and the brand, like, you don't need to do any of those things. You don't need to say any of those. I know 50,000 reasons why. No, I need you to get into a little tiny space of yes. We never did that program. But the ability for him to get into that space of yes meant that we did the most amazing and innovative work I have ever done in this business. And so I urge all of you, find a way outside of technical constraints, outside of budgets, outside of markets, outside of time. Find your way into that space of yes, and you'll do amazing things. Thank you very much.